Okay, today I'm going to show you how to make some tomato meat sauce that you can use to dress pasta. We have some ground beef here. This is grass-fed from Uruguay. We've got an onion, we've got carrot and 2 celery stalks, tomato paste, and a can of tomatoes. I like to use fresh tomatoes when they're in season, but I think we've just got beyond this part of the season where we could actually depend on having good tomatoes. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to start by showing you how to cut an onion. This might be a pretty useful skill because a lot of people aren't that familiar with a good, reliable way to cut an onion. But of course, the first thing I'm going to do is to hone my knife. Make sure we can line the edges all up before we cut our onion. So the first thing we want to do is take off the cap of the onion. Here's the head, here's the root. So we make a cut right here to take off the top and give us a base on which to rest the onion. Now what we do is we'll cut halfway through from north to south. And once we do that, then we can peel the onion. Okay, I've got a half an onion here. I'm going to show you how to cut it so you can always get a pretty reliable dice on it. The first thing we want to do is to bring the knife parallel to the cutting board and cut horizontally into the onion a couple times. I think we've got room on this half for about 2 cuts. Turn it around and then have the cut end facing you and put the knife down as straight as possible into the onion vertically. Using your fingertips to guide the knife through a straight line, using your knuckles rather, and keeping your fingertips back from the edge of the knife. Now that we have those cuts done, we turn it around and we just cut to complete the dice. At the bottom you might have a little left over here, but now you've got a pretty well diced onion. Now for the onion, I'll probably not use it to cut, but I'll probably use the shredder in the food processor to get some shredded carrots. If I was to just cut it into pieces, it might take a little longer to cook than it would for the celery or for the onion. So I'm going to just peel it here and then put it through the food processor to shred it. This is a really handy tool, by the way. I got it at Sur La Table on somebody's advice, and it's a little expensive for a peeler, but believe me, if you try this, you'll love it. And take off the cap. Okay, this is a pretty easy part of it here, is we're going to just put this through into the shredder. To finish it, just put the cap through the top. Voila! Shredded carrots. Okay, back here now, we're going to cut the celery. Same thing as we did with the onion. Prepare the knife by honing it. You really can't do this enough, in my opinion. What I tend to do is I'll cut the celery at least halfway through, sometimes in 3 cuts, to give me a good dice. Turn it around. And then when you cut, you want to kind of get into a rocking motion like this. Instead of just, I've seen people, they just slap it like that. It's not really good. This gives you more of a rhythm, and it also is safer. And notice what I'm doing with my fingers. I'm keeping my tips back and allowing only the knuckles to touch the blade as I get close. It might be a little awkward, any of this stuff, if you're not used to it, but if you practice it, you will get a lot better at it in time, and you'll find it hard to go back to whatever way you happen to pick up by trial and error later on. Okay, now that we have everything prepared, we've got the beef, we've got the celery, we've got the carrots, and we've got the onion. We're going to heat a pan with olive oil. Now you've got the oil pretty heated up now. First we'll put in the onions. And let them get a little translucent. And by translucent, we basically mean, if you look at the onions right now, you can see they're pretty solid colored, pretty solid white. They'll start getting a little clearer as they cook more. And that's what brings us the term translucent. You kind of want to start seeing light come through them. Okay, if you look now, you can see they're starting to get that clear look to them. Now we're going to add the celery. And then the carrots that we shredded in the food processor. Mix them all up and allow these to get some translucence too. The same thing will happen to the carrots and to the celery that's happened to the onion. You'll start losing a little bit of the solid color to it and start getting some light coming through. Another term for this kind of base for a sauce is called sofrito. In French it's called mirepoix. It's basically a trinity of sorts, celery, onion, and carrots, and that among the sweetness and the different flavors of the three vegetables, you get a really good base for a sauce. And that's what we're going to do with this one. Now that we kind of cooked this down, I'm going to add the meat. And we're going to kind of do the same thing with the meat that we did with the vegetables. We're going to try to release its liquid. So I've got some ground beef here from Uruguay. It's grass-fed. And what I do is I just put it into the pan in the middle. I make a space. And then just break it up so that it can cook pretty evenly. You don't want a huge block of meat, as you want to separate it as much as possible. But you don't want to get it incorporated into the vegetables just yet. You basically want to just have it cook on its own in the middle and try to get some color on it. I'm going to switch to a wooden spatula here. Might give us a little more. A little more control over how we get the meat broken up. Again, this is not a high heat. This is low, it's kind of a medium heat. We really don't want to scorch anything. And we want it to cook as evenly as possible. Now you can see it's already starting to get some color. Okay, if you look now, you can definitely start seeing some brown on the meat. And the liquid's just about all gone. So before we allow the meat to give up the ghost, we're going to give it just one more stir. And then we're going to pull it around to the side and put a little bit of tomato paste in there. This is just going to punch up the flavor a little bit. And we're going to kind of do the same thing with the tomato paste that we did with the meat. And let's get it a little caramelized. We've got a good base to the sauce now. If you look now, everything's kind of released a lot of liquid. And we've got some bits on the bottom of the pan that we're going to get into our liquid. Now you could chop up these tomatoes before you put them in, but I kind of like to break them up in the pan myself. And these are tomatoes that have been picked at the height of the season. They're organic too. These are Muir Glens. I really like this flavor. They've still got some seeds in there, which I've never found to be a problem. But I'm going to break this up, and as I do, the liquid's released, And then I'm going to scrape with my spatula on the bottom to get all those bits we just saw, all the brown parts, into the liquid. Okay, I'm going to put the pan on, the top on the pan, lower the heat. Now we're going to let it sit for about 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, it's been about 20-25 minutes in total so far. You could certainly let this go a little longer and then just keep adding water as needed. But 20-25 minutes should certainly give you a good sauce that you can use for dinner. Now turn the heat off of this, and then we can just use this to dress some pasta. And that's it, tomato meat sauce. See how easy it is? And it's all made from scratch.